Hello, everybody. Welcome to our AEC Senior Executive Briefing for April 8th, 2021. It's funny, it often seems like it's the little details like that go unnoticed to the novice eye, but that's what makes all the difference.
They get noticed by the subconscious part of your selection committee's brain, and they don't know why they like you so much more than they like the other team, but appreciation is part of it. Yeah. Let me give you, I want to do a little activity with you to show you the other piece, the synergy piece. Yeah. People believe that synergy isn't possible here. You know, like in the room when we can manage, I can look and see when you're going to talk. But with a couple simple rules, you and I are going to, can we tag team for a second, Greg?
Sure can, yeah, I'd love to.
Okay, so here's the rules. The rules are interrupter has the right of way. So if you interrupt me, I'm just going to stop and smile and be happy. That takes the start and stop out of the equation. Yeah. And I'm going to try to just move one. It's sort of like putting one Lego brick out, and then you're going to put another one on. I'm not going to try to put 7 and build something. Yeah. So we're going to tag team. What's our subject? Let's talk about. Let's talk about going. We're going to present, you and I, for just 1 minute to the audience. We're going to present about your last topic, which was the return to the workplace.
Yeah. Okay.
So you ready? Okay. So I'm going to kick it off, and then you join in. We're just going to tag team, and then we'll just break it off. Yeah. Yeah. And if one of us interrupts, the interrupter has the right of way.
All right. All right. Let's
go.
So
Greg and I want to talk to you about returning to the workplace. It's one of the strangest things. We first were hit with this experience of being separated from our workplace. Then we kind of started to like it. And now suddenly a lot of us are having to go back, and now we don't know how to do it.
You know, Carl, is it that we don't know how to do it, or more we just don't want to do it? We've sort of become comfortable in the environment that we're in. That's kind of what I think.
Well, I know for me, I have come to embrace the way this sort of world works now for me. I don't need to burn the time in the tension of traffic anymore. And suddenly I'm in a borderless world, and the business actually works better.
Absolutely. Absolutely. The commuting time and headache and stress and all that is a big differentiator.
So the biggest thing we're finding is people have to realize it's not returning to the old world, is going to yet a new world that combines some of what we had that's gone is coming back, while everything we've been, and it's making something new. We're going to have to figure it out starting right now in 2021.
Absolutely. Yeah, I agree with that.
So anyway, we just did a little tag team.
Yeah.
And what happened was synergy is communicated because we have to listen to each other and build off each other. So I'll fly the helicopter down, because that was a big question that you asked a little bit ago. The way I can leverage more power is to bring more presence, to bring the emotional energy while we talk about whatever practical things we have. And if I can build in moments of tag teaming where you can see us interact together, we are now showing synergy.
Yeah.
So those would be the two simplest things you can do to differentiate.
Yeah. So here's the expert. You heard us talking about.
You've inspired me to stand, Dean. And I just wanted to share, from the Steely confidence side, that what you're speaking about is spot on, and we call it cultural fit, right? In the selection process, when it tips the scale, can that buying audience see you, that you get them? That you're there, you're on the same side of the table. And I think you're exactly right. The trends we've been seeing, this is the new way of doing it. Some have been doing it this way. It's new for others, but it is replicating the human experience in this, right? That's whether it's a website, an interview, all of that is how do you methodically break that down? I think the thing I'd add in there is you've got that technology fuzz in between. So you have to learn how to grapple with when the connection fails, or somebody freezes, or, all of those things. Or if it's a website, you're anticipating, how does a website behave like an animated Dean in front of me responding to what's relevant? You have to break that down in a real methodical way. So I love this presentation and where it's going. I think some of the challenge in between thinking about AEC audience too, very technical, how do you break that down into methodology? What are the things you can practice and perfect the craft on?
Yeah, and I love that question there.
I was just going to add to that, Carl, because that was exactly where I was going. This is the question I get all the time: is our project managers just? I mean, they were kind of like not super comfortable presenting in person, but presenting in virtual, we're just not hitting it. And yeah, I guess to that point, Carl, like what are the things I can do with a project manager who doesn't quite have these skills? Is a recipe we follow, or what are we going to do?
What I would say is first recognize how good news that bad news is. And the reason I say that is the entire industry just got brought down to a lower bar. So you don't have to be like a thespian actor. You just have to stand a little higher than the crowd. So it doesn't take the average project manager much time to actually be a more expressive project manager. So the things that I tend to practice with people, we start routinely looking into the lens a lot. You can practice that. A project manager can learn to do that. They learn to look at their screen. They can learn to look at the lens. We also work with them. Believe it or not, you can learn to appreciate and actually make that a manual choice. I'm going to choose to care about you. I'm going to appreciate you. And people seem, if they practice those two things, they're getting to presence. Where it gets into the dirt model thinking is this is surprising. It doesn't take people long to recognize, oh, I can spot a driver. They're the ones who are always speaking about results and they're kind of blunt. Oh, I can spot a thinker. They're kind of skeptical. They ask very detailed questions. They're kind of quiet. Once people realize they can spot them, there's just a couple little axes to worry about. I want to be more concept first, detail second. If it's drivers and inspirers, don't drag them into the weeds until you've given them the concept. Mm-hmm. Believe it or not, that's not so hard to follow. If I want to be more emotional with inspirers and relators, people and expressive people, they need the emotion. I want to calm my emotion down a little bit with drivers and thinkers. So we get on just those two axes. The average AEC person can just, I need to give the concept first. Here's what we're doing. Now let me break it down. They can decide to curb their enthusiasm. That's my challenge. I spot a driver, I got to curb my enthusiasm and meet them more factually. But very simple things that you can do and learn to make a difference.
It would seem to me also, we joke about it, but the standing up, I mean, if you're presenting, I've often heard that with even sales, people who are in sales, or you go to one of those Dale Carnegie or something like that. If you're doing outbound sales on the phone, standing up, it's just something about your confidence and all that. So that seems like a quick, easy, tactical thing to tell PMs too. If you're presenting on this opportunity, stand up.
I noticed that in film, whenever we were doing voiceover recording, I would bring in a chair to make the actor comfortable, and they would push it aside and stand. And so, of course, I asked about it at a point, and they said, listen, we get so much more energy if our body is straight, we have more access, and we sort of quiet down, and we lose a little of our oomph when we sit. And then it gets more complicated in that, have you ever watched somebody watching an exciting TV show? It's the show they talk about all week. They can't wait to see it. And they're at the edge of their seat and the show starts and they go like, this is them watching their favorite show. They're dead as a doornail because TV vibe shuts you down here and you just keep soaking it in. Your brain is active, but your body shuts down. So we're doing that here. We're going into our meetings, forget interviews, just our daily meetings. We're going in to the clients we care about and the work we love, and we're looking at the screen and we look checked out. We look like we don't care. And then one person on the call is looking at the lens and is bringing a vibe. And suddenly there's where the personal brand comes in. My personal brand is not how I dress, it's how I feel when I'm talking about what matters to me. That's my vibe. And that's my personal brand. And we can't help but communicate a personal brand of interest or disinterest, connection or disengagement by how we handle these simple things like feeling what we're talking about through the lens when we talk and when we listen.
Hey, what happens, Dean, if you're in a room with a bunch of T's? Does the energy not? Do you suddenly find this? Maybe that's the cultural fit thing Carl was mentioning, but like uh-oh, we gotta adjust here. We're not connecting with the group.
Sure. What do we do with a bunch of thinkers, the analytical, data-oriented people? Well, we do adjust to them. So let me give you the tragedy story first, and then I'll make it more positive. My business partner is a thinker, and he and I sort of clash in that we're opposites. We're like the best business partners ever, but we always are coming at it from the opposite direction. And so if I want to make it impossible to communicate my idea to my business partner, I come in all excited and I say, oh my gosh, I had this aha flash of lightning that's going to change the way we do our business forever. Okay, that is simply terrifying. So what I do instead is I'm going to come in and say, hey, Pete, I would like to vet an idea with you. Notice I'm starting with the details. I would like to sit down. I'm hoping maybe we can find an hour or maybe two so that I can step through something. I had some thoughts, and we'd really have to talk through the details to know they make sense. And he'd be like, oh, cool. What's the concept? Then I can give him the concept. But I satisfied his need, and I came to him rather flat, because when emotion really clicks with a thinker type, it's at the end, because he gets totally excited. But you know when he gets excited? After we've vetted it, because then he's got confidence. It makes sense. We've tested it out, and then he's all fired up. So I will let my emotion come more at the end, and I will curb it at the beginning, because he will say, oh man, he's already decided something, and I don't know what, and I don't know why, and I don't like it. So yeah, you can alter your approach very easily to address somebody else's needs.
It almost seems like if you have a mismatch, and maybe that's the importance of the DIRT model, is to understand who the people are to the best you can in the room, is to adjust a little bit so you don't trigger, almost seems like you trigger like a defense mechanism on the part of the T, right?
Right. And I want to adjust one word. It's not mismatch, it's balance. Because the last thing I need in my company is another one of me. Well, actually, as we grow, we can have more of the different personality types. But I've been paying attention to smaller companies. I'm a smaller organization. And without ever thinking about it, we formed a leadership team, and there's 4 of us. And lo and behold, there's 1 driver, 1 inspirer, 1 relator, and 1 thinker. We naturally gravitate to what's different. So it's always compatible. It's, can I adjust my communication according to the platinum rule instead of the golden rule? Golden rule is, I want to communicate to you the way I hope you'll communicate to me. Platinum rule is, I have to communicate to you the way I think you need to be communicated to. So I favor your behavioral preferences if I can pick them up. And, it's not an exact science, but I'll tell you, go into an interview where you realize that as much as you expected a top driver at the top, you've got a relator at the top who's teamed up with an inspirer, because people often go to their kitty corners on these models. And it's like, wow, oh, this is a different group. How should we go about it for them? So the edge that we get by just stepping through that as best we can allows us to bring our authentic presence, but adapt it to communication styles.
It would almost seem like, and does this happen a lot, where going in, you think you've got everybody pegged as a DIR or T, but within the first 30 seconds, you realize you had it all wrong. And you have to kind of pivot and adjust based on that?
Sure. The good news actually is people are more right. We're more right than we are wrong. It does happen. What happens is we're doing this all day long. So we didn't invent this. This is how human beings are. You were on a school playground at age 7, and you were tracking this stuff with no language for it. You were processing and realizing and grouping. And so people who know nothing about this tend to connect with the right kind of compatibility. We sense who to be around, and we usually pick something different. So most of the time, the surprise has been we're more right than we thought. But when you're wrong, yes, you look for signs that something isn't clicking right. And then, you adjust concept versus detail. You adjust motion versus more emotion versus less emotion. If you realize you have relators, people, more appreciation. Appreciation is a very high one. If you realize I've got a driver, they like stern, the one energy they like. So you get more stern with them. We've got to make sure that you get this result. And so, yeah, you can adapt in the moment, but you'd be surprised at how good you could be at this because you already are in this game.
Wow, that's great. Dean, thank you so much. Lots of great insight, lots of great perspective. Carl as well, thank you for joining us. I hope all of you who joined us, thanks, Carl. I thought you had a lot of great insight as well. And I hope everybody can take some of this away and use it.
And Greg, forgive me for interrupting back, but can I tell them about this for just 30 seconds?
Interrupter has the right of way.
Has the right of way. Okay, so I just wanted, we talked about this book, Winning AEC, virtual AEC interviews. This was the original book, Winning AEC Interviews. I believe that you'll be talking about a follow-up PDF or something you send out. We're going to give a code that will give you a complimentary copy of this book because you're PSMJ. We've done a lot of work with you and we value the opportunity to be here. So there will be a code and a link that would let you discount the price of the book. So you'll get we'll comp you the book and pay for that. You'll just pay for the shipping. So if you're interested in that, that will contain much of what we've been talking about. And I just wanted to make sure you at least knew that first.
Absolutely. So the follow-up email tomorrow, in addition to the recording, will include a link to that book from Dean, as well as some content from Carl. And that's right, use the promo code PSMJ and you get the complimentary copy of the book, just pay shipping. Lots of great stuff. You can learn all about dirt in Dean's book. Hopefully you stand up when you read it. That's about it. We're out of time here for today, but thanks guys so much for joining.